Part 8. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 71. Chapter 71. Still 1 year. Xian immediately shut his mouth. It stands to reason that when the master left the imperial city, Uge, as a personal bodyguard, should follow him, but the master did not let him come. Although he said that he had something to do, he, Changfeng and Jin Yutang all knew that the master was alienating Uge. Uge was not allowed to do anything important this year, and Uge didn't know anything confidential. It's just that Uge is not alert yet and is willing to be Qin Sui's lackey, alas. He doesn't want to be the next Uge. Yan Xiangluo didn't keep them waiting for long, and she was back in just 1 cup of tea. Ignoring them, she waved her delicate hand, and an alchemy furnace with a strong ancient charm was suspended in front of her, and then a cluster of flames fell under the alchemy furnace. Xian and Changfeng both looked at her in surprise. She was the second person they had ever seen who used her fire power to refine elixirs and weapons. The first one was their master Xuanhuan. After all, using your own fire power to refine alchemy and weapon requires strong mental support. Xuanhuan's eyes also flashed, but his expression did not change. With a thought, Yan Xiangluo took out medicinal herbs one by one from the space and threw them into the alchemy furnace to start refining the elixir. Xian and Changfeng did not dare to make any noise, and even stopped drinking tea, because they knew that the elixir was refined for Xuanhuan. Xian was also an alchemist himself, and he watched her refining the pill intently. She was several years younger than him, and her technique was more comfortable than him, and much faster than him. Whether it was the time to dissolve the herbs or the time to purify them, it was less than 10 years ago. In just 1 stick of incense, she had already begun to condense the elixir. When the elixir was ready, Xian's eyes widened in shock. Oh my God, the rich aroma and golden elixir pattern. This is a perfect quality elixir. She actually refined a perfect quality elixir. Medicine. Looking at her expression, it seemed like this was a normal thing. Could it be that the elixirs she refined were all of perfect quality? What kind of talent does she have? In front of her, even a person who has been given the talent of alchemy by her family is embarrassed to call herself a genius. Yan Xiangluo flicked the elixir directly and ran towards Xuanhuan. Take the elixir first and meditate for an hour, and then I will give you the acupuncture. Xuanhuan caught the elixir and put it in his mouth without hesitation. The elixir melted in his mouth and slid directly down. Then a comfortable breath spread through the meridians all over his body, and finally gathered into his dantian. From the last spiritual power exhausted, all the discomfort in my body disappeared at this moment. What kind of elixir is this, so effective? Xuanhuan was curious but didn't ask anything, and started to meditate cross-legged. Yu Xiangluo was also meditating opposite him. Xian and Changfeng looked at each other in a daze. They don't want to waste this time, but they still need to practice. Thinking that she is now a dual cultivator of both spirit and martial arts, she suddenly understands that a person's energy is limited and there is only so much time. If you want to cultivate both spiritual and martial arts, you must pay more. If you don't have enough time, you can only squeeze in. They didn't bother the two of them, just sat drinking tea and waiting. An hour passed, and when Xuanhuan opened her eyes, Yan Xiangluo also quit practicing. He took out a medicine bag and threw it to Changfeng. There is a kitchen on the south side of the hall. There is water in it. You go boil the water and boil the medicine bag. It only takes a quarter of an hour to boil it. Then put it in the bathtub I prepared and get it. Come here. Changfeng caught the medicine bag without saying anything. He stood up and left the practice room. He looked at the palace on the mountain and walked up. As expected, he walked around the palace and saw a separate house to the south. When he walked over, he saw that it was indeed a kitchen. It is fully equipped and has a bathtub. Chang Feng followed Yan Xiangluo's instructions and began to boil water and cook medicine. Here, Yan Xiangluo took out the needle roll and said to Ji Zhizhong, "Take off your shirt." Ji Zhizhong glanced at the needle roll. It was still the one she had sewn in the cave. Apparently, it was also the silver needle he refined. He took off his robe and sat cross-legged. It was an experience once, but this time there was no need for Yan Xiangluo to waste any time. Yan Xiangluo's eyes were clear, and there was no change because of the man's bare upper body. He fluttered his bare hands, and in a moment, all 81 silver needles on the chest and back were pierced into Ji Zhizhong's body. About 2/4 of an hour later, Chang Feng came in with the bathtub in his arms. Yan Xiangluo stood up and said to Chang Feng, "Take off his clothes, soak in the tub, continue to boil the medicine, and change when it gets cold." He took out 5 more packets of medicine and put them on the table. "These 5 packets of medicine have been soaked, so there is no need to soak them. But don't touch the silver needle. I live in the room opposite the kitchen. If you need anything, call me." Chang Feng looked at the medicine bag and said, "Miss, do you still have a bathtub?" He couldn't let his master come out naked, change the medicine soup, and then come back and let his master soak in it. "I will put another bathtub in the kitchen." After saying this, Xiangluo stood up and left. Chang Feng discussed with Xian and decided that Xian would guard the master and Chang Feng would be responsible for boiling the medicinal soup. After Yan Xiangluo put a bathtub in the kitchen, she went back to the room to practice. She sighed in her heart. This was the bathtub prepared by the original owner's parents. Now that it is ready, it has been used by Ji Zhizhong, and she has to prepare more. Only one would do. She was not used to using a bathtub that a man had used. That night, Chang Feng brewed 5 barrels of medicinal soup, and Ji Zhizhong soaked in the medicinal soup for one night. But strangely, his skin had no problems at all, no wrinkles or wrinkles caused by being soaked in water for a long time. Normal white. And he felt it very clearly that the fetal poison was once again suppressed by Yan Xiangluo. It's just that this time, because he consumed all his spiritual power, his body was damaged. I don't know how long he can survive this time. Yan Xiangluo made the last bucket of medicinal soup in Ji Zhizhong on time and put on her pants. He checked his pulse first, nodded, put away the silver needle very quickly, and reminded him, "If you exhaust all your spiritual power again, even if the fetal poison is resolved, your talent and cultivation will be damaged." "Serious?" "I know." Jiju nodded. Chang Feng felt extremely guilty. It was all because of their incompetence. If it weren't for their lack of strength, how could they let their master exhaust their spiritual energy to fight against the opponent? Jin Yutang has also been feeling guilty about this matter. They all remembered Yuan Xiangluo's instructions very clearly a year ago, but there was nothing they could do. At that time, no one except the master was his opponent, and they were almost defeated. "Girl, how long can the poison be suppressed this time?" Ji Zhizhong asked. Yan Xiangluo glanced at him and said, "1 year. How can you still suppress it for a year?" This was an unexpected surprise for Ji Zhizhong. "Miss Yu's acupuncture skills are very strong," Ji Zhizhong said solemnly, and he sincerely praised Xiangluo. Xian also extended his thumb, "It is indeed very strong. Miss Yu is the first person I admire in terms of medical skills." Yan Xiangluo nodded, "At present, I am only good at medical skills." End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 72. Chapter 72 Xuanhuan Ji Seal. Such a frank admission of her strong medical skills made the 3 of them stunned, and then they looked at each other knowingly. This little girl is sincere and will admit whatever she has to say. Discourage, she is such a special little girl, I don't know how she developed such a temper. Thinking of her previous encounter in Tianshan Imperial City, the 3 of them wisely stopped taking her words. What kind of reward do you want this time? Zhizhong asked after getting dressed. A flash of hesitation flashed through Yan Xiangluo's apricot eyes. Zhizhong saw this and said, "Don't worry, Miss Yu, I will try my best to meet your request." Yu Xiangluo let out a long breath and thought about giving it a try. If it works, she won't lose anything. "I want a high-level copy of Xuanhuan Kung Fu." Yan Xiangluo said what she wanted. At this stage, she does not lack anything. The only thing she wants is the high-level Xuanhuan technique. She has been obsessed with the Xuanhuan since the Xuanhuan was broken a month ago. Zhizhong was stunned. Xian and Chang Feng both looked at Zhizhong nervously. How did Yan Xiangluo know that his master had a high-level Xuanhuan technique? Could it be that she was bribed by those people? Is the goal Xuanhuan Kung Fu? Zhizhong was silent for a moment and asked, "If I'm not wrong, Miss Yu is now a dual practitioner of both spirit and martial arts. A person's energy is limited. Can I ask you why you still want to learn Xuanhuan?" "A month ago, I was given the Potentian mark by someone. I didn't know who the person was, which made me curious about the Xian mark. This time I was lucky and escaped, but next time, I can't guarantee that I will have good luck, but I just want to study Xuanhuan. Because my energy is limited, I don't want to waste time studying low-level Xuanhuan techniques, so I want a high-level Xuanhuan technique, even if I don't achieve it. It's high, but if you understand it, it won't be easy for others to scheme against you." Yan Xiangluo didn't shy away from it and explained why he wanted to learn Xuanhuan. "Broken Dan Xuanhuan," Xian and Chang Feng blurted out almost in unison. Then they all looked at Zhizhong. They knew very well that the Dan Xuanhuan was a high-level Xuanhuan that was not passed down to other people in the Qin family. Could it be that Miss Yu's disaster was caused by her master? The master and the girl have already broken off their engagement. Why would Qin Sui do anything to her? Suddenly, he thought of Yu Ji. Xian and Chang Feng suddenly had mixed emotions. Zhizhong glanced at the two of them, and they both looked away. Needless to say, it was Yu Ji who revealed this news to Qin Sui. Yu Ji has always disliked seeing Yan Xiangluo. A year ago, the girl suppressed the fetal poison for her master. Yu Ji thought that Yan Xiangluo was retreating in order to advance and was still thinking about his master. He must have told Qin Sui the same thing. The master has clearly refused to marry Qin Sui, but she still refuses to give up and actually reaches out to the Xianyuan section. The master may be completely disappointed with Ge this time. They knew very well what the consequences of utter disappointment would be. They were all trained by the clan elders as masters since childhood. From the time they were sent to their masters by the clan elders, they had only one master. Yu Ji seemed to have never figured out who his master was. Zhizhong narrowed his eyes and thought of the reasons why the embarrassed little girl insisted on breaking off the engagement with him that day. She sighed secretly. Even though the engagement was broken off, she was still implicated by him. Since it was you who brought her disaster, you should compensate her by yourself. Doesn't she want a high-level Xuanhuan Kung Fu book? Give her your own book to learn, as long as she can learn it. With a thought, a book with an old book cover of Kung Fu appeared in his hand. "I have a high-level book of Xuanhuan Kung Fu, but because it is a family inheritance, I can only lend it to Miss Yu. I will give it to you next time. Just give it back to me when I apply the acupuncture." However, learning Xuanhuan also requires talent. Very few people have this talent. The higher the level of Xuanhuan, the more demanding the requirements are. Even the descendants of the Xuanhuan family who can learn Xuanhuan are rare. Master Xian and Chang Feng both exclaimed when they saw that Zhizhong had lost his Xuanhuan technique to Ruanxiang. How important is this skill? How can the master teach others at will? If Yan Xiangluo wants them to find a copy for her, there is no need to give her this one. What should we do if it is really those people's plan? Zhizhong raised his hand to stop the two of them. Yan Xiangluo looked at the two people's reactions and understood that this technique was probably very important, but she was not polite. What she wanted was such a high-level Xuanhuan technique. He reached out and took the Xuanhuan technique and said to Ji Zhong, "Don't worry, I will definitely give it back to you next time I give you acupuncture. I can also make an oath. I will only learn this technique by myself and will never give it to you. Anyone can watch and learn." The oath was made as soon as the words were spoken, which made Xian and Chang Feng breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it seemed that Miss Yu really learned by herself. However, not everyone can learn this Xuanhuan technique. They looked at Yan Xiangluo and wondered if she could learn it. The three of them stood at the gate of the mountain and glanced at the gate of Xianhuan section. They came yesterday afternoon, and this morning, they were suppressed and expelled from the house without even having a meal mixed with the master's poison. Alas, there were times when their master was so unpopular. His attempt to meet the master of Thousand Poison Peak was also rejected by the Peak Master. "Master, how did you avoid the Po Dan Xian mark?" Xian asked curiously. Ji Zhong glanced at him, and Xian immediately covered his mouth. "Pretend I didn't ask." Ji Zhong retracted his gaze and glanced at the mountain gate of Xianyuan section. He raised the corners of his lips in a rare move. The little girl really had character, and then Yukong left. The master actually laughed, and Xian and Chang Feng followed Yukong with expressions as if they had seen a ghost. At this time, Yan Xiangluo was in her room looking at the high-level Xuanhuan Kung Fu book that Ji Zhong had given, no, borrowed. There are only two words Ji seal on the cover. She doesn't know why the Xuanhuan technique is called this name, but Ji Zhong's surname is Ji, so Ji should represent his family. As for the seal, she doesn't know the purpose. She felt a little weird when she thought that the skill book was actually from Ji Zhong's family. She also thought about how precious the Xuanhuan skill was, so she didn't have to worry about which one was not passed down privately by the family. She reached out to turn the first page, but she felt a resistance, as if the page weighed 1,000 pounds. She used her spiritual power, but she couldn't turn the first page. Remembering what Ji Zhong just said, learning Xuanhuan also requires talent. Very few people have this talent. Even the descendants of the Xuanhuan family cannot learn Xuanhuan. Only a few people can learn it. It seems that this sentence is to remind yourself that you may not be able to learn Xuanhuan Kung Fu. Yu Xiangluo felt a little regretful because he couldn't open the Ji seal even with his spiritual power. Did he not have the talent to learn Xuanhuan? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 73. Chapter 73 is indeed extraordinary. She felt that this mysterious pattern technique contained extremely powerful power, much stronger than the Dan Dan Xian pattern that Miao Nagano used on her. If she could learn, she knew that there would be unexpected gains, even if Ji Zhong only gave her 1 year. What should we do now? Stupid master, the mysterious patterns are imprinted on the carrier. How can you do it with spiritual power? Use mental power, Shiwo's voice sounded in her consciousness. Yan Xiangluo's eyes lit up. Thank you Shiwo for the reminder. Have you read all the fantasy novels in your previous life in vain? You don't need to use mental power to do it. Humph, who made the master so stupid? Shiwo said arrogantly. It did not admit that it was worried that the master would give up learning the mysterious pattern, so it reminded him. This Xuanhuan Kung Fu is of a very high level, and anything that can catch his eye must be unusual, and the same goes for the Kung Fu. Yan Xiangluo didn't care about Shiwo's attitude. Although Shiwo disliked her on the surface and was very arrogant, he actually cared about her, otherwise he wouldn't have protected himself when she was being plotted against. After Shiwo's reminder, Yan Xiangluo's eyes fell on Ji Yin again. Without moving her hands, she mobilized her mental strength to turn the first page. She didn't use much mental power, mainly because she was worried about damaging the technique. Although she didn't use much mental power, she easily opened the first page of the technique. Xianxia was overjoyed and immediately started to read it carefully. Just after reading the first page, she knew that the Xuanhuan Kung Fu book was indeed extraordinary. Even if it was her first time to come into contact with the Xuanhuan Kung Fu, she could tell that Jiyin was indeed a high-level Xuanhuan Kung Fu book. This time she did not read the Xuanhuan Kung Fu at the same speed as reading an alchemy book. The speed was very slow. She only read the first page for half an hour. Only then did she know the meaning of Zhizhong's words. Xuanhuan Kung Fu doesn't mean you can know what it means just by seeing the words. It requires you to use your mental power to see the words clearly. If you want to understand, you need to. His mental strength is not ordinary. Think about who can output mental power continuously for half an hour. Xianxia estimated that, given her level of mental strength, it would take at least half a year to read this book of Xuanhuan Kung Fu. This speed is still the speed at which she read the first page, not counting the estimated time for subsequent difficulty increases. If the difficulty increases later and requires more mental energy, it will take more time. At this time, she also understood why Zhizhong said that he would just give it back to him the next time he gave him acupuncture. If you can't finish it in 1 year, you won't be able to finish it in your lifetime. After all, it is too difficult to improve a person's spiritual power. The limit of how far such a high-level Xuanhuan technique can be seen in 1 year is the limit. No wonder there are so few Xuanhuan masters. Originally, Xianxia didn't want to put learning Xuanhuan first, but if she only had 1 year, she really had to rearrange her training time. In fact, no matter what she learns, her spiritual power cultivation will not be delayed. Now she can use it three-purpose very well, but in practice she usually multi-purposes two things. What she must practice is to absorb spiritual power to improve her cultivation. She won't put the cart before the horse. Now what she needs to arrange is the time for alchemy, vitality cultivation, and Xuanhuan study. After replanning her time, she had a full day. She was not in a hurry to learn how to imprint the mysterious patterns, but read the Jiyin patterns techniques page by page. Because of her good memory, she was used to memorizing the techniques in a book first, familiarizing herself with them, and keeping them in her mind. Practice after you are familiar with it. As a result, the handyman disciples at Qiandu Peak saw that Xianxia was working harder, and often went into the practice room and stayed there for several days. She also specially carved a no disturbance sign during practice and hung it on the door of the practice room. Even if Deng Changs came and saw this sign, he would not go in and disturb her. Bai Tangyunyu, who came to have a meal, was stopped by the do not disturb sign several times and began to practice behind closed doors. Although Xianxia was of higher seniority, she was only 14 years old and several years younger than him. He felt inferior to her for practicing so hard. During the new year, he went home for half a month. He heard that Xianxia had been practicing except for the New Year's Eve when he and the master of Qiandu Peak went to Master Qinhe's place to celebrate the New Year. This is what the Qiandu Peak handyman disciple who did not return home said. He felt that none of the disciples of the Xianyuan sect were as diligent as her in cultivation, and he had to learn from her. Unknowingly, Bai Tangyunyu was influenced by Xianxia, so that his path was different from his previous life, making Miao Nagano, who had always wanted to seize his opportunity, doubt whether he was also reborn. And Miao Changjai has been paying attention to Xianxia's movements since he came back from Thousand Poison Peak. He didn't know what kind of mysterious pattern was used on Xianxia's body, but he felt that Xianxia should be the same as that Xianxia for practicing so hard. Pattern related. But there has been no bad news in Qiandu Peak, which makes him feel more and more uneasy. Even if the woman said it, it would not have an immediate effect, but it has been 3 months, and there is still no movement. Because of this, I can no longer practice meditation. No matter how uneasy he felt, the sect arranged another training session for this year. Although the time was later than last year, the location was still Huanghai Forest. To their surprise, Yan Xianglue was the only one among the entire Xuanhuan sect disciples who was qualified to participate in the training and did not participate in the training. I didn't participate in the sect competition, saying I was in seclusion and didn't come out. Now I don't participate in the sect training. I'm still in seclusion but haven't come out. No matter how I look at it, I feel something is wrong. But most people think that she is a useless person with 5 spiritual roots. I am afraid that she has never advanced in cultivation, so she has been practicing in seclusion and not participating in anything. She is worried about losing the face of the master of Qiandu Peak. Even when Jin Xinrong went to Qiandu Peak to see Yan Xianglue, she was blocked by the wooden sign saying "Do not disturb during cultivation." But Yan Xianglue left a message for her, and Jin Xinrong felt relieved knowing that she was indeed practicing, and went to practice according to the sect's arrangements. Bai Tangyunyu came here specially. Although he didn't see Yan Xianglue also left a message for him, wishing him good luck in this experience. Bai Tangyunyu knew that Yan Xianglue was not angry with him, so he went to practice with peace of mind. The disciples of the sect all went out to practice, and only some handyman disciples stayed. The Xuanhuan sect suddenly became quiet. On Qiandu Peak, the master and apprentice stood face to face on the south cliff. Xiaoluo wants to experience it by himself. Ruan Xianglue nodded, "Master, since my cultivation cannot be exposed before the secret realm of Lingquan is opened, this is the only way to go. Besides, no one from the sect is willing to form a team with the disciple, even if they go together. I'm going to experience it alone, so I might as well just go it alone." Deng Changs looked at the handsome young man in red robe in front of him and nodded, "Okay, you have to be careful." End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 74. Chapter 74. There is a demon here. This girl has refined the 3rd grade perfect disguise pill. If someone is not above the level of cultivation, they will not be able to tell that she is disguised. Even if someone with the level of cultivation can see it, they can only know that she is disguised. Now, I can't see her true face at all. It is indeed the safest way to experience it as a teenager. Disciple bids farewell to Master Yu. Xianglue gave Deng Changs a great gift, then jumped off the cliff. It happened to fall on the flying white eagle. Deng Changs couldn't see the figure of his young apprentice before he looked away and looked at the distant sky. It seemed that he left the mainland much earlier than he expected. His young apprentice was progressing too fast. However, we still have to wait until the Lingquan secret realm is opened before we can break through. This is also the reason why he promised to only accept one disciple in his life. No matter whether he succeeds or not, he will leave a legacy in this world. The appearance of Xiaoluo shows that his persistence is right. The little girl's talent is so incredible. I am afraid that what he has not been able to do in more than 30 years, she can do before she is 20. Deng Changs turned around and went back to his room to practice in seclusion. Yan Xianglue did not use the teleportation array to go to Huanghai Forest, but decided to practice all the way there. Sect disciples have a time limit of 1 month, but she has no time limit for this experience. It takes about 10 days to take the White Eagle from the mountains behind Xuanhuan sect to Huanghai Forest. Along the way, she can pick herbs and kill monsters. She can not only collect herbs, but also exercise her fighting power. Therefore, after the White Eagle took her to the depths of the mountains, she went down and walked inside. In the past, the master did not let her come to the depths of the mountains because the level of the monsters there was too high. Her cultivation was to bring snacks to others. The master did not know that she had Pangu space, but high-level herbs were only available deep in the mountains. Yes, she is about to start refining the 4th level elixir. She needs many high-level medicinal materials, some of which cannot be bought with spiritual stones. The most important thing is that Qiandu does not have some rare poisonous weeds. The poisonous elixir refined by the master is simply superb. No wonder he is called the Poisonous King. If he wants to refine the 4th grade poisonous elixir, he lacks some rare poisonous weeds, and even the master does not have them. Therefore, she will use this opportunity of experience to collect all the needed medicinal herbs and poisonous weeds. Sure enough, there were not only many medicinal herbs deep in the mountains, but also high-grade and long-lasting herbs. In one morning, she collected a lot of medicinal herbs and planted them in Pangu space. However, although there were many poisonous weeds, the rare ones had not yet been encountered. Arrive. What puzzled her was that she didn't encounter a single monster all morning, which surprised her. She had specifically communicated with Xuanhuan. A monster appeared to notify her and tell her its level. She would not overestimate her ability to fight a monster that was many levels higher than hers. She also had to choose a level higher than hers. Too many monsters to fight. Xuanhuan, don't you think it's strange? How could you not encounter a single monster all morning? Xianxia communicated with Xuanhuan. Master, there is no scent of monsters within 100 miles. Xuanhuan is a divine beast anyway. Although it is a bit weak now that its strength has not been restored, the ability of the divine beast itself is still there. Xianxia stopped and let go of her consciousness to sense her surroundings. Xuanhuan, how come I feel a very cold breath, but I can't find the exact place? Xuanhuan squatted on her shoulder and shook his little head. Master, there is evil energy here. Demon energy. Xianxia knew about demonic energy from fantasy novels in her previous life, but in the memory of the original owner, there was no demonic existence in this continent. Yes, it's demonic energy, it's unmistakable, Xuanhuan said with certainty. Although it has forgotten many things, it still remembers the devil's breath. Is there a demon here? Xianxia felt tense all over. She had adapted to fighting monsters, but she was still afraid of demons in her heart. Although he is a demon, he must have been seriously injured and is very weak, Xuanhuan said again. The fear in Xianxia's heart became even worse. She was so weak that there wasn't even a single monster within 100 miles. What would happen if it were strong? Coming into this world and having a healthy body, she felt fear and withdrawal for the first time. Is it too late for us to leave now? Xianxia asked. She felt the aura becoming clearer and clearer, but she was clearly standing here without moving, which meant that the devil was moving and moving toward her location. It's too late. Xuanhuan's tone became much more solemn. Can you deal with it? Xianxia was very calm. Since it was too late, she had to find a way to deal with it. Master, my current strength can only deal with intermediate level monsters. Although this monster is very weak, high-level monsters will be turned into scum in an instant. I am not its opponent, Xuanhuan said truthfully. Then don't stay outside. Xianxia neatly sent the clouds into Pangu space. Since you are no match for the devil, you can't force it, you can only outwit it. She stood there without moving. For a moment, she saw a black mist floating towards her in front of her, and the cold atmosphere became clearer and clearer. The hairs all over Xianxia's body stood up, and her heartbeat was beating fast. Although she was scared, she remained calm on her face. The black mist stopped 5 or 6 steps away from her, slowly forming a human shape, and then a man wearing a black robe and a black cloak appeared in front of her. Her black hair was disheveled, her thick black eyebrows showed off her sharpness, her narrow eyes looked at her coldly, her tall nose, thin lips, and her entire facial features, although handsome, were so cold that it made people shiver. Xianxia was stunned. He looked like a human being. If it hadn't been for the black mist before, he wouldn't have been able to connect with the devil at all. If the devil was also a human being, he would really be able to outsmart him. Human race, the man opposite spoke. Xianxia rolled her eyes at him pretending to be calm. What are you talking about? It's like you're not a human being. After he finished speaking, he looked at him nervously and said, are you trying to rob me? I'm telling you, I'm an alchemist and I'm just here to collect medicines. Don't even think about robbing me of my medicines. Woman, the man opposite obviously didn't expect her to react like this. Aren't all humans fainting from fear when they saw him? And for the first time in his life, someone said he was human. Xianxia was shocked. He was now dressed like a young man. After taking the Yurong Dan, his appearance also changed. He could actually tell that he was a woman at once. Sure enough, his strength was not ordinary. Alchemist, the man looked at her with his narrow eyes. Xianxia said this deliberately. Xuanhuan asked him if he was injured and needed medical treatment. He first said that he was an alchemist and might have a chance to escape from him alive. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 75. Chapter 75 Spare Your Life. Xianxia didn't think that she could avoid him if she had Pangu space. Although Xuanhuan said that he was very weak now, that was compared to what he said before he was not injured. His strength after being injured would be the same as crushing someone to death. As easy as ants. Yes, I am a third-grade alchemist, Xianxia said in an arrogant tone. The man was silent for a moment and said, come here. What are you going to do? I will never give you the herbs. Xianxia looked at him with vigilant eyes, as if he really wanted to steal her herbs. Heal me and spare your life. The man's tone was cold and gloomy. Everyone who has seen him will die, but if she can heal her injuries, she can spare her life in large quantities. Ah, you want to kill me? Xianxia looked at him in horror. Stop talking nonsense, heal me and you will live, the man said impatiently. Xianxia didn't quite believe what the man said, but at this time, she had no other choice. She said weakly, do you mean what you say? No one dares to doubt my words. The man's patience has obviously reached its limit. I am not only an alchemist, but also very good at medicine. Xianxia walked towards the man in small steps. The implication behind the words is, don't worry, I will definitely be able to cure you, but you must keep your word and spare my life. 5 or 6 steps away, no matter how small her footsteps were, Xianxia quickly reached the man's side, and the cold aura became even more obvious. Stretch out your wrist, Xianxia said. The man frowned, obviously wondering what he was doing by stretching out his wrist. I need to take your pulse first so that I can know the extent of your injuries and then I can think of a way to treat you. Xianxia saw that he had not stretched out his hand and was still looking at her with doubtful eyes. She suddenly remembered that the other person was a demon and might not know how doctors treated patients, so she explained. You know ancient medical skills. The man was obviously surprised. Xianxia was stunned. In her previous life, she had to know how to take the pulse, but now it has become an ancient medical skill. If the ancient medical skills you are talking about refer to pulse diagnosis, then so be it. The man heard this and stretched out his wrist. The man was wearing a black robe, but his skin was sickly pale. Xianxia stretched out her index and middle fingers to press on his pulse. She wanted to know the difference between a demon's body and a human's. After feeling the man's pulse, she frowned. The body structure was no different from that of a human being. She understood that the so-called demon just had a different cultivation method, and he was still a human body. In this way, she didn't have to worry about how to heal the man in front of her, but the condition of his injuries was not optimistic. In the heart of fear, it was because I was forgotten because I encountered difficulty in the incurable diseases, and I frowned and thought about healing. The man saw that she withdrew her hand and remained silent, nor did she ask any further questions. He waited quietly. After a while, Xianxia raised her head, looked at the man and said matter-of-factly, your injury is a bit tricky. Someone poisoned your danshan, and your nascent soul can no longer practice. Then you were seriously injured, and your cultivation level plummeted. If you want to cure it, I can't do it now. I can only suppress the poison for you first. If you want to cure it completely, you need an extremely special medicinal material. I don't even know if it is available on the mainland. The man was shocked. He was indeed poisoned. The poison poisoned the demon infant, the nascent infant of the human race as she called it, and then someone took the opportunity to seriously injure it. She could actually tell it by diagnosing the pulse, and it was accurate. Is the legendary ancient medical skill so powerful? Originally, he thought that his demon baby would be like this, until it was completely useless, and he became a useless person, but now he suddenly had hope. What medicinal materials? The man asked. Immortal fruit, Xianxia said. After finishing his words, he added, I have an elixir to cure you. Even if you don't have the other medicinal materials in the elixir, you can still find it. I have only seen this prickly pear fruit in the Baiko too, and it doesn't seem to be available in the mainland. The man stared for a moment. Where is this? Although the prickly pear fruit is extremely precious, how come an alchemist has never heard of it, saying that it doesn't exist in the entire continent? What's the name of this continent? The man suddenly asked. Xianxia instantly understood that this man was not from their mainland, so how did he get here? Isn't it impossible to travel between continents at will? Tianqian continent. I was confused in my heart, but it didn't show on my face at all. I've never heard of the name of this continent. It turns out to be the lowest continent, and yet I'm here. A trace of confusion flashed across the man's eyes, and he clearly realized that he was there. After listening to his words, Xianxia was sure that this person was not from their mainland, so why did they say that there had never been any records about demons in their mainland? Now she also knows why there are no records about demons. They have been injured like this, and their strength can easily crush the high-level spiritual beasts here. Didn't you see that not one of them escaped? This shows how strong the demons are. Why do people come to their most humble continent? I'll look for the prickly pear fruit. What other medicinal materials do you need? The man came back to his senses and asked Xianxia. Xianxia was not polite. She originally wanted to save him, so she just provided some medicinal materials herself. Among them, he should let him pay for the extremely expensive ones. She immediately took out a pen and paper, wrote the names of more than a dozen medicinal materials, and handed them to him. In addition to prickly pear, I need these. They are too expensive and I can't afford them. I have the others. The man took the list of medicinal materials and glanced at her. He had to take risks to collect the medicines himself. He must be very poor. These medicinal materials were indeed very expensive. It was normal for her to not be able to afford them. After all, with her level of cultivation, if she hadn't appeared, she would have become a delicacy in the mouths of those spiritual beasts. How can I suppress the poison in my body? The man looked at the list of medicinal ingredients and put it away. Use acupuncture. Xianxia took out the needle roll and showed the silver needle to him. After all, he was a stranger, and the other party was still a demon, so he might not be able to trust him. If you can find the medicinal materials as soon as possible, you can do it without suppressing it, but the time cannot exceed a month, otherwise it will have a great impact on your talent and cultivation, Xianxia added. Xianxia gave him two choices: either I will suppress the poison for you now, or you can find all the medicinal materials within a month and I will refine the elixir for you to completely solve the problem. It depends on what he chooses. How long can acupuncture suppress poison? The man asked. Half a year. Xianxia estimated a time based on the man's physical condition. The poison in men is different from the fetal poison brought about by Jija Kong's birth. It is more ferocious and more destructive to the body. This is the limit of what she can do. How to perform acupuncture? The man asked after hesitating for a moment. 10 acupuncture points. Apply acupuncture for half an hour. Yang Xiang pointed out that the 10 acupuncture points that needed acupuncture were all near the dantian. She felt that this man might not be able to trust her. "What do you need me to do?" the man asked, looking at the location she pointed out. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 76. Chapter 76 Teleportation Formation. Just expose the area that needs acupuncture. Yan Xiangluo was a little surprised. Did he want him to give him acupuncture? The man glanced at her, took off his robe, lifted up the skirt of his clothes, and exposed the area around his pubic area. "You can do the acupuncture." Yan Xiangluo didn't expect that he would actually let her give him a needle to suppress the poison. As soon as she took out a silver needle, she heard the man say, "Don't even think about making any small moves, I can kill you even if you are close to death." The sudden words frightened Yan Xiang and shook her hands. She rolled her eyes at him and said, "You have to concentrate on giving the acupuncture. You are scaring me. From now on, you are not allowed to talk. Otherwise, don't blame me if you inject the needle in the wrong place. But I know in my heart that I have the strength to be emotional and don't worry about doing anything on my own. If the suppression is successful, I'll give you a treasure," the man said again. Yan Xiangluo's apricot eyes suddenly lit up. "I'll pay you back. I thought I was going to get the treatment in vain." The man felt relieved when he saw her bright eyes. As long as he was interested in the reward, it meant that she would not be disadvantageous to him. Besides, in such a low-level continent, she didn't know who he was, and she had no grudge against her. This was the main reason why he asked her to perform acupuncture. Yu Xiangluo raised her hand, and 10 silver needles were pierced around the man's dantian in the blink of an eye. For half an hour, you can clearly feel that the poison has been suppressed. After applying the acupuncture, Yan Xiangluo retreated to a tree, leaned against the tree, sat cross-legged, and began to practice. Anyway, with this man, no, even if the devil is there, no monsters will come. She is very safe, and she will not waste time. The man just stood there, not daring to move. He glanced at the girl dressed as a young man who was practicing cross-legged under the tree. A dark light flashed in his eyes. Wasn't she worried that he would kill her? Thinking that he still needs her to refine the elixir to completely solve the physical problem, it is obvious that she is confident. Half an hour passed quickly, and the man was shocked. Indeed, as she said, he could clearly feel that the poison in his body had been suppressed. He didn't know where she had suppressed it. Anyway, his body felt much better. Demonic energy can also be used freely. When the time came, Yan Xiangluo quit the practice on time, stood up, walked to the man, and took back the silver needle neatly. "I'm going to collect herbs to practice. Can you find me?" After gathering all the herbs, Yan Xiangluo asked. The man glanced at her and said, "I can find you wherever you are." He has already dropped a touch of consciousness on her, and it is easy to find her. Yang Xiang dropped her hand. She was just testing it out, and sure enough, she couldn't escape from his grasp. "I'm going to Wanghai Forest to practice. If you can collect the medicinal materials within 2 or 3 months, go to Wanghai Forest to find me. Rather than being passive, it is better to be proactive. Since people can find you easily anyway, why not take the initiative to tell you where you are going?" The man nodded, and Yan Xiangluo didn't stop, turned around and left. "Wait a minute," the man called to her. The fragrance fell into a pace. "Is it necessary to remove the donkey? The key is that this grind has not been unloaded yet." She turned to look at the man and saw something running towards her as he raised his hand. "The baby I promised you." Yan Xiang was relieved and stretched out her hand to catch it. It was cold in her hand. She saw it was a disc-like thing, black, like jet, but not jade. She looked over and asked, "What is this?" The teleportation array plate. Input spiritual power, think about where you want to go, and then you can be teleported there directly, the man explained to her. How far is it? Yanxiangluo's eyes suddenly lit up. This is good, it's so convenient. Even if you advance to the king level, you can't go where you want to go immediately. She does know that there are teleportation patterns, but this teleportation array is obviously more convenient than the teleportation patterns. There is a distance limit for teleporting the mysterious pattern according to the strength of the mysterious pattern master. The maximum distance is 5,000 meters at a time. It can be used continuously. The man curled his lips. This formation plate is not something that ordinary people can have. Unfortunately, it requires the input of spiritual power and magic power. It is useless in his hands, but when it comes to monks it's a treasure in your hands. It's really a treasure, thank you. Yanxiangluo happily put away the teleportation array disc and turned to leave. This time the man didn't stop her again. He looked at her back and wondered why she didn't use the teleportation array immediately. Anyone else would want to run away from him immediately. Yanxiangluo also wanted to try it immediately, but in order to prevent the man from suspecting that she was afraid of him, she held back. Besides, since she couldn't avoid him, she didn't want the man to disrupt her plan. After Yanxiangluo's figure disappeared, a black mist enveloped the man, and then the man's figure also disappeared. Yanxiangluo walked for a while, and the clouds in the space shouted, "Master, a monster has appeared, and its strength is above the intermediate level." Yanxiangluo was relieved, and a monster appeared, indicating that the man had left and was immediately ready to fight. The monsters above the intermediate level were just right for her. She raised her hand and a long rhombus gun appeared in her hand. She wanted to use her vitality to fight first to test the effect. A small leopard came into Yanxiangluo's sight. Hey, the size of this leopard was similar to the leopard in the previous life. Even so, Yanxiangluo did not dare to underestimate it. It could reach the strength of an intermediate monster, how could it not have some ability? Sure enough, the moment he saw her, the leopard opened its mouth, and a large ball of flame rushed toward her. Yanxiangluo thought to himself, how could he forget about the flame leopard? The flame leopard is not only small, fast and agile, but most importantly, it can breathe fire. Yanxiangluo dodged and narrowly avoided the flames of the flame leopard. Wherever the flames fell, the weeds were burned away, revealing the dark land. But just as she dodged, another ball of flame had already arrived in front of her. Seeing that she couldn't escape, she instantly entered the Pangu space, and then came out immediately after the flame attack passed. The flames burned another thick tree and a large area of wild grasses, wild flowers, and unknown wild plants. Flame Leopard was stunned. How did she avoid her own flames? How could it suddenly disappear? Yanxiangluo has finally learned the strength of the Flame Leopard. The speed of spitting fire is not very fast. If it weren't for Pangu space, she would have been seriously injured even if she used Earth Escape. Taking advantage of the opportunity when the Flame Leopard was dazed, Yanxiangluo gathered his energy and jumped up. The golden spear in his hand stabbed out, and a stream of energy rushed towards the Flame Leopard. Flame Leopard reacted very quickly, and dodged Yanxiangluo's attack with a light jump. The vitality of the Changling spear fell to the ground, and a 2-meter deep pit appeared. This shows how powerful the attack power of the 5th level Xuanhuan is. But it was obviously not possible to deal with the Flame Leopard. Yanxiangluo decisively switched to spiritual power. You have flames and I also have them. Although it is not as big as the Flame Leopard's flames, it is still a flame. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 77. Chapter 77 Meeting Uge. Although Yanxiangluo has 5 spiritual roots, in fact, She has only used the metal, fire, and earth elements. The fire element is used to make alchemy, the earth element is used for defense in battle, and the metal element is used for attack. Today she used the fire element to attack the earth element to defend herself. Therefore, when the flame attack went out, the earth escape appeared in front of her and blocked the flame leopard's flame attack. However, she did not think that her earth escape could completely withstand the attack of the flame leopard. Although her cultivation had reached the 6th spiritual level and her cultivation had increased a lot, she was still a little weak in front of the intermediate monsters. Therefore, she had already dodged when Tu Dun appeared. Sure enough, after Tu Dun was hit by the flame leopard's fire attack, the impact continued forward. If she hadn't dodged, she would definitely have been hit by the flames. Even if she couldn't be burned to death, she would still be hit by the flames. Will get burned. As for her flames, the flame leopard didn't take it seriously at all and slapped them away with a paw. Xianxia didn't dare to slack off at all. When dodging, he threw out an earth escape at each foothold to defend himself. He stepped on the last earth escape with his foot, jumped up, and turned somersaults in mid-air. The long caltrip gun in his hand inputs the gold power and runs towards the flame leopard. If the fire element power doesn't work, just change it. Sui Jian has a 5th element spiritual root. This time she used the 6th level of spiritual cultivation to hit her strongest attack. The flame leopard chased her and breathed flames to attack. She didn't expect that she would suddenly turn around. He chased her so fast that he had no time to take back. He only had time to tilt his head to avoid the fatal head. But it underestimated the power of the lance. Although it did not hit its head, it penetrated the side of its neck, directly penetrated its body diagonally, and stabbed out from its hind legs. Xianxia was overjoyed. Although the skin of the flame leopard was not comparable to that of the silver-armored pangolin, the intermediate monster's body was very hard and the long leaf spear could penetrate easily. If she encountered a silver-armored pangolin again, wouldn't she be able to as embarrassed as Xianxia? Thinking for only a moment, she let go of her hand, and the long caltrip spear penetrated directly from the flame leopard's body. Xianxia gathered her spiritual power and chased after it, and the long caltrip spear returned to her hand. At the same time, she turned around and stabbed her with the long rhombus spear again. While you are sick, you want you to live, and Xianxia is planning. The flame leopard was stabbed diagonally through the body by the long diamond spear. It roared and fell down in a leaping position. Before it hit the ground, Xianxia's long diamond spear stabbed it again. The seriously injured flame leopard could not hide away. He turned his head angrily and spit out a large ball of flames, wanting to die together with Xianxia. Xianxia used her spiritual consciousness to control the long spear and continued to attack the flame leopard's body. She herself collected her spiritual power and fell from the jumping state, just in time to avoid the flame leopard's flame attack. But he fell to the ground in a panic. The long rhombus spear pierced the flame leopard's body again. This time it did not penetrate, but penetrated directly into the flame leopard's head from the back of the body. The flame leopard fell to the ground unwillingly, whimpered a few times, and lost his breath. Xianxia got up from the ground and looked at the large area of trees burned down by the flames that the flame leopard attacked last time. She was still frightened. Yun Tuan, what is the intermediate level of the flame leopard? Xianxia asked Yun Tuan, who was staying in the space. It's just a little bit short of reaching the advanced level, Yun Tuan said with a guilty conscience. Doesn't Xianxia feel something is wrong? No matter how fast the flame leopard is, if it is an intermediate monster, she will not be forced into the space to avoid it. It turns out that it is about to break through to the upper level. Does this mean that she has the strength to fight beyond the next level? Promoted. You can also try to fight when you encounter high-level monsters. He walked up to the flame leopard, drew out his lance, put away the flame leopard's body, and continued walking into the forest, ignoring his embarrassed appearance. The direction was towards the Huanghai forest. 10 days later, she walked out of the Huanghai forest. The aura on her body had changed greatly. However, she had obviously accumulated enough spiritual power, but she still could not sense the opportunity to break through to the 7th level of the spiritual level. As expected, the 2nd level of Pangu Kung Fu was not that easy to pass. She was worried about what she would do when she broke through to the king level. She has walked through the forest behind the sect in 10 days. When she encounters intermediate monsters, she uses her vitality to fight, and when she encounters high-level monsters, she fights with her spiritual power. I also encountered high-level monsters several times. Although it was very dangerous each time, fortunately I had space to help and I narrowly defeated them. Within 10 days, both powers have been greatly improved, and her vitality has increased by 1 level. Her current vitality is level 6. The harvest from medicinal materials is not small, and the medicinal fields in Pangu space can no longer be seen at a glance. No, she is going to Huanghai Forest. In terms of the type, quality, and age of the medicinal materials from Huanghai Forest are better. She took out the formation disc that the man gave her and finally tried the formation disc. After inputting her spiritual power, she thought about looking at the sea and forest in her mind. A white light flashed in front of her eyes. She closed her eyes instinctively and felt a sense of dizziness. Immediately, the white light disappeared, and when I opened my eyes, I saw that I was no longer in Huanghai Forest. This teleportation array is really powerful, and it's here in the blink of an eye. She has only been to Huanghai Forest once and only knows the place where the sect teleports, so she was teleported here directly. Fortunately, it had only been 10 days since the training, and no one was guarding the place. She looked ahead, put away the teleportation array and walked into the forest, heading directly towards the cave where she met Xuanhuan last time. Tonight she was going to rest in the cave for a night and learn the Xianxia technique. It had been 10 days, and she had no time to learn the Xuanhuan. She didn't want to give it back to others before she had finished reading it. She let the clouds go. After all, this is where she met the clouds, and the clouds were equivalent to going home. Sure enough, as soon as he came out, he smelled the familiar smell and saw the familiar place. Xuanhuan was very excited. Yanxiangluo let it go to play in the forest. Anyway, with the contract, Xuanhuan could find her if he wanted to come back to her. Wanting Xuanhuan to come back was just a matter of thought. Yanxiangluo was practicing her spiritual power and collecting herbs, and then walked towards the cliff in a familiar way. At noon, she arrived at the bottom of the cliff. Even though it was only noon, she was not ready to leave, so she climbed directly up the cliff and entered the cave. There was no one in the cave this time. She took out the lighting beads and put them aside. Then she took out Jiyin and mobilized her mental power to read. The afternoon passed, and her mental energy was almost exhausted. In Huanghai Forest, she did not dare to consume too much mental energy. Just as he was about to put Jiyin away, he heard a voice coming from outside. "Miss Jean, the last time I came with the master, I lived here. It was very safe." Yanxiangluo was startled. The voice seemed familiar. She immediately remembered that it was the voice of Ji Zhizhong's bodyguard who didn't like her. "Have you met Zhizhong again? It can't be such a coincidence, right?" End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 78. Chapter 78 Finding the Enemy. No, Uge is talking about Miss Jean, who is obviously a woman, not Zhizhong. Yanxiangluo didn't want to meet Uge anymore. With a thought, she entered the Pangu space and took the lighting beads in. In a moment, Yanxiangluo saw Uge walking in front holding a lighting bead. Following him was a woman wearing a snow-white dress. She had an outstanding appearance, but no matter how she looked like a white lotus. Picture. Miss Jean, look, the hay where the master slept is still there, Uge said with a smile. Jean Sui's eyes fell on the hay on the stone, walked over, and sat down on it. Yu Xianglou glanced at the corner of her mouth and saw that she had been sitting on the hay all afternoon. Not only your master had slept on it, but through this incident, she could see that this Miss Jean should like Jizhong, and she suddenly thought of someone. Miss Jean, there really is such a person in the memory of the original owner, named Qin Sui. It is said that the only woman in Tianshan Imperial City who can come and go freely in the regent's palace is said to be the person Jizhong likes. It's just because of the fiancé Ruan Xianglou. Qin Sui's identity was not disclosed to the public. However, the original owner had never seen Qin Sui once. Knowing who she was, Yan Xianglou sighed for Jizhong's vision. It's not good to like any kind of woman. If she likes a white lotus, do all men like this? Miss Jean, let's have something to eat. Uge diligently took out the food box and placed it in front of Qin Sui. It contained a full range of food, including snacks and fruits. Qin Sui ate in small bites. Uge found a place to sit down and took out some food to eat. It was obvious that what he ate was for food, but what he gave to Qin Sui was carefully prepared. Is this where the young master met Yu Xianglou last time? Qin Sui suddenly asked. Yan Xianglou didn't expect that Qin Sui would actually mention her. She had already broken off her engagement with Jizhong and it didn't bother her anymore. Why did she mention her? Yes, it's right here. I think that Yu Xianglou just wants to bind her master with kindness, but they don't believe me no matter what I say. Uge looked indignant. Yan Xianglou was speechless. She tied Jizhong with kindness. Why didn't she know that although she acupunctured Jizhong twice, she was paid both times? It could be said that every time she got it right, how could Uge see that he was going to bind Jizhong with kindness? If she was interested in Jizhong, why did she break off the engagement? Isn't the engagement the best way to tie him up? Qin Sui raised the corners of her lips and said, it doesn't matter, she won't be able to tie up the young master soon. Yan Xianglou's heart sank after listening to Qin Sui's words. Why did she say that? Suddenly she thought of the Dangxuan mark that Miao Changjai had given to her. She listened to his voice. It was a deal between a woman and him. Could it be that this woman was Qin Sui? Yan Xianglou didn't expect that she just came to the cave to learn the Jiyin Xianwen technique, and actually found the person who gave her Xianwen. God couldn't stand it. However, Qin Sui's treatment of herself was obviously because Uge didn't have anything nice to say. That's right. After this, the master doesn't need her anymore. As long as he enters the secret realm and gets the 9-leaf clover and the spiritual spring, the master's poison will be completely cured. Uge didn't understand the meaning of Qin Sui's words and was thinking of himself. Talking about his thoughts. Yan Xianglou narrowed her eyes. Did Jizhong know that the person who gave her the mysterious pattern was Qin Sui? Thinking that he lent Jiyin to him, even if he didn't know it before, he should have guessed it. Now that you have met your enemy, how can you not give yourself such a good opportunity to avenge yourself? I don't know when the master will see how good Miss Jean is. I just don't understand why the master refuses to marry Miss Jean. Uge looked depressed. Qin Sui was not in a good mood when she mentioned this matter. She stopped talking and ate in a dull mood. Yan Xianglou was stunned for a moment, and then she became happy. If Jizhong hadn't been around, she would have given him a big thumbs up. You have to be blind to fall in love with such a woman who looks white on the outside but has a black heart on the inside. She saw Uge secretly looking at Qin Sui, and suddenly understood that Uge was really blind because he liked Qin Sui. Since you like it, why do you help Qin Sui marry Jizhong? It suddenly occurred to me that this was not the previous life. The hierarchy of status was obvious here. Qin Sui could call Jizhong the young master instead of the master, so her status was obviously not low. Uge was just a guard, so naturally he was not worthy of Qin Suiyu. Yan Xianglou didn't believe that someone as smart as Ji Zhozhong couldn't tell that Yu liked Qin Suiyu. She didn't know what Ji Zhozhong would do with such a guard. Thinking that Ji Zhozhong did not bring Yu with him to Xianyuan sect this time, and at this time Yu accompanied Qin Suiyu to Wanghai Forest, could Ji Zhozhong be fulfilling Yu's wish? This is a blessing for the song, but an insult to Qin Suiyu, right? She was a little confused as to what Ji Zhozhong wanted to do. However, without delaying her revenge, since you gave me the Po Dan Xian mark and want to destroy my Danshan and make me a useless person, it is only right to come and go. I will also give you a Po Ling Dan. The effect of the spirit-breaking pill is similar to that of the pill-breaking mysterious pattern. They both destroy the Danshan and make it impossible for people to practice. Originally, she did not want to refine this kind of elixir, but it was included in the third-grade elixir, so she refined it once. Although it was only one elixir, it was of perfect quality. With a thought, the spirit-breaking pill appeared in her hand, crushed it with spiritual power, sent it out of the space, and landed directly on the fruit cut into small pieces in the fruit plate held in Qin Suiyu's hand. There is someone, Qin Suiyu said alertly. Yan Xianglou touched her forehead, and she felt it at that moment. Her cultivation level was not low. Yu stood up immediately. There is someone there, why didn't I feel it? Qin Suiyu let go of her consciousness and didn't sense anyone. Could it be that the spiritual aura just now was her own illusion? Eating the fruit slowly with doubts, Yu moved to the entrance of the cave and said, Miss Qin, rest assured. I will stay here. We will definitely find the forgettable grass this time. Forget you grass. Did they come to Wanghai Forest to find the forget-me-not grass? Thinking of the role of forget-worry grass, Yan Xianglou knew that Qin Suiyu must have bad intentions, and she didn't know who to plot against. As long as she is not plotting against herself, she will not mind her own business. Seeing that Qin Suiyu had eaten all the fruits, Yan Xianglou sat cross-legged with satisfaction, stopped looking at the two of them, and started practicing. You give me the mysterious pattern of breaking the elixir, and I will give you the breaking elixir, Fortat. The next day, when Yan Xianglou quit practicing, he found that there was no one outside. The two of them should have left early in the morning. Looks like he is in a hurry to find forget word. Forget word is not that easy to find. Not to mention the harsh growing environment, even picking it is very dangerous. Yan Xianglou came out of the space. After eating something, she left the cave and continued her training. Unexpectedly, 7 days later, she saw Qin Suiyu and Yu again. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 79. Chapter 79 Meeting two people again. In the past 7 days, Yan Xianglou avoided the disciples of Xianyuan sect when she met them. Although she had changed her appearance, she did not want to interact with them under another identity. Those who were avoiding each other like this unexpectedly met Qin Suiyu and Yu again. It has been 7 days. The effect of the spirit-breaking pill she gave Qin Suiyu should have appeared, but Qin Suiyu didn't seem to notice it yet. Ms. Qin, are you sure there is forget word grass here? Yu asked, looking at the narrow passage into the valley in front of him. Qin Suiyu nodded and said, I'm sure. I looked at the growth environment of the forget word grass in detail before I came here. It's very suitable here. There must be one. Yu hesitated and then said, then go in. Although it is very dangerous, Miss Qin is a very talented Xuanhuan master in the Xuanhuan family. She should have many means to save her life. She will accompany her through life and death, so that she will not abandon herself at the critical moment. Yan Xianglue glanced at the passage in front and admired Xianxia for actually finding a place suitable for forget-worrow grass to live. However, her consciousness had already sensed that it might be easier to get in than to get out. She is not interested in their life or death, but she is quite interested in forget-word grass. After all, there is a recipe in the 4th level elixir recipe that requires forget-word grass. Xianxia followed Uge and walked inside. Yan Xianglue hesitated but followed. The road into the valley was very narrow, but there were 2 people leading the way. Yan Xianglue felt a little more relaxed, but she did not dare to follow too close. After all, both of them had higher cultivation levels than her. Although Xianxia had not yet broken through to the king level. But it is already the 9th level of the spirit level. She cannot see through Uge's cultivation level, but it is definitely above the king level. She didn't overestimate her ability and tried to the forget-me-not from the 2 men's hands, she just wanted to go in and see if she could miss it. After walking through this narrow road, her eyes suddenly opened up. The height of the lush weeds was almost up to her chest. There were no trees, so the sight was very wide. Uge used his long sword to open the way in front, and chopped down a large area of weeds with one strike of the sword. Xianxia followed him and walked forward. Go to the left. Xianxia directed the direction, and Uge followed her instructions and chopped weeds to the left. Yan Xianglue did not follow her, as it would have been too easy for them to discover her. She looked at the direction and then at the height of the surrounding mountains. It was almost noon, and the sun was almost shining directly. Forget-me-not grass didn't like too strong sunlight, so it wouldn't grow in the sun at noon. Go to a sunny place. Therefore, one must be born either where the sun shines at sunrise or where it shines at sunset. In this valley, the sunrise will shine until noon. The sunshine time is too long and the sunlight is very strong. Therefore, the forget-me-not grass must grow in the place where the sunset will shine. After making the estimation, she walked towards the sunset without chopping any weeds. She ducked into the weeds, pushed aside the weeds with her hands and walked away. Although the speed was slow, the direction was definitely correct. She did not dare to use her spiritual sense to detect the location of Uge and Xianxia. Uge had a high level of cultivation and would be discovered as soon as his spiritual sense passed by. Xianxia was also very alert, and she would be alert to any disturbance. Therefore, she didn't know at this time that she and the 2 of them were actually walking in the same direction, but Uge and Xianxia took a detour a little further. Yan Xianglue knew the direction accurately and almost went straight. Looking down from the sky, Yan Xianglue, dressed in red robe and struggling to move forward among the green weeds, is the most conspicuous and can be seen at a glance. Where Uge and Yu walked, they left a wide road behind them. Yan Xianglue still had to hide herself and push back the weeds. The road was too difficult. After walking for half an hour, she felt that the water vapor was getting heavier. His almond-shaped eyes lit up, he was almost there. The 2 growth environments that forget-worthy grass needs are: one is that the sunshine should not be too strong, and the other is that there is sufficient water but no water logging. Both conditions are met here. There must be forget-me-not grass here. Right here. Yan Xianglue heard Xianxia's voice coming from not far away, and they came looking for her. She quickly stopped, squatted in the weeds, and kept her breath to the weakest. Finding the place where the forget-word grows, you still have to pass the most dangerous level, which is the guardian beast. As long as there is a place with forget-worn grass, there must be a demon beast, the green spirit snake, guarding it, because the forget-worn grass is a powerful helper for the green spirit snake to form a demon elixir. Wanjuko can suppress the noise power in the green spirit snake's body, and the most critical factor in forming the demon elixir is the noise power. The less the noise power, the higher the success rate. Demonic elixirs are too important for demonic beasts. Due to the restrictions of the rules of heaven, demonic beasts cannot be promoted to war beasts like spiritual beasts. Demonic beasts with advanced peak strength are also top level in strength. If the monsters still want to improve their demon power, they must form a demon elixir. They can store the demon power in the demon elixir, so that their strength can surpass that of high-level demon beasts. The smaller the noise power, the purer the demon elixir formed. The purer the demon elixir stores more demon power and is stronger. It can be imagined how important the forgettable grass is to the demonic beast green spirit snake. At this moment, Xianxia suddenly felt a cold breath coming from behind her. She didn't even turn her head to look, and dodged into the pangu space without hesitation. She knew without looking at her that the cold aura came from the demonic beast green spirit snake. Sure enough, after entering the space and looking out, she saw a huge green snake appearing where she was just now with its mouth wide open. Obviously he was wondering why the delicious food that was about to reach his mouth had disappeared, and he was so surprised that he forgot to close his mouth. Xianxia broke out in a cold sweat when she saw the green spirit snake. The cultivation level of this green spirit snake has reached the highest level of the monster beast, the advanced peak. It should be waiting for the forgettable grass to mature and then swallow it to help it form a monster. Den. How does she know? Because the demon elixir that the green spirit snake wants to form is on its head. Before forming the demon elixir, it will store its power there first, and a big bag will protrude from its head. The bag on the head of this green spirit snake is already very big, and it is obviously waiting to form a demon pill. In an instant, the green spirit snake closed its mouth and stared coldly ahead. It swam quickly and left in the weeds very quickly. Looking at the direction in which the green spirit snake left, Xianxia's eyes lit up. It must be Uge and Xianxia who discovered the forget worry grass. The green spirit snake found out that someone was trying to kill him with the forget worry grass, but he didn't care about disappearing himself. I don't know if Uge and Xianxia can withstand the attack of the green spirit snake, which is at the peak of its advanced strength. It's a pity that her location is still some distance away from Uge and the others. The weeds block her sight and nothing can be seen. Although she was worried about whether the two of them had obtained the forgettable grass, thinking about her own strength, she gave up the idea of going out to watch the excitement, which could easily cost her life. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 80. Chapter 80 Missing Opportunities. Although she couldn't see it, Xianxia could hear Xianxia's frightened shouts. It was obvious that her cultivation was like an ant's existence in front of the green spirit snake. Although Uge's cultivation level is not low, he can barely survive against the monster beasts with advanced peak strength. How can he protect Xianxia? Even in space, Xianxia could sense the powerful fluctuations in attack power outside. The weeds were driven by the power wave and surged past like waves. It was very beautiful. This was a scenery she had never seen before. At this moment, Xianxia ran towards her, followed by the green spirit snake's huge tail, which swept over with wild strength, instantly sweeping away the weeds that blocked Xianxia's sight. Xianxia was also attacked by the violent power of the green spirit snake, and her body was blown away. Uge chased after Qingling snake from behind. When he saw Xianxia being attacked by Qingling snake and flying out, he became anxious. He had already used his spiritual power to the extreme and chased Xianxia. At the same time, he shouted, "Miss Qin, use the attack Xuanhuan." The Qin family is a Xuanhuan family, and Xianxia has the best Xuanhuan talent among her peers in the family. Naturally, she has no shortage of Xuanhuan. He doesn't know why Xianxia doesn't use Xuanhuan. He knows that carving mysterious patterns requires mental energy, and each mysterious pattern is precious. Xianxia is only talented among the family's children, but she has not reached the point where she can carve mysterious patterns as she pleases. As for the mysterious pattern that consumes the most mental power when attacking, she doesn't carve it very often, and she only has a few in her hand. She is reluctant to use it unless her life is at stake. But now she also knows that if she doesn't use it, her life will be dead. Hence, even if Uge doesn't shout, she is still preparing to use the attack Xuanhuan. So at the same time as Uge shouted, she threw a piece of jade in her hand and ran towards the green spirit snake. Uge quickly dodged when he saw this, fell into the weeds nearby and rolled out. Yanxiangluo's eyes were fixed on the jade stone, wanting to know how strong Qin Sui's attack on the mysterious pattern was. After all, the mysterious pattern was also divided into levels. Xuanhuan masters are divided into levels 1 to 9, and she doesn't know what level Xuanhuan master Qin Sui is. Green spirit snake saw the flying jade, and swiped it with its tail disdainfully, trying to knock the jade away. However, as soon as the jade touched the green spirit snake's tail, it shattered instantly. Although it could not be seen, the fragrance fell. Miao Nagano had used the Xuanhuan before, so he knew that the Xuanhuan was effective only at this time. The moment the jade stone shattered, the green spirit snake's tail was cut off by a powerful force, and it fell to the ground still squirming. The green spirit snake, which had lost its tail, became furious, and Yanxiangluo choked down when she saw the bag on its head. Originally, it could form a demon elixir right away, but now that its tail has been cut off, even if the forget word matures, it won't be able to use it, and it will never be able to form a demon elixir in this life. Not only that, even if it can survive, its cultivation will fall a lot without its tail. The world where monsters live is very cruel, and it will not be easy for it to survive. The angry and desperate green spirit snake dragged most of its body and suddenly rushed over. Powerful demon power spat out from its mouth, and a breath of destruction came to the face. Yanxiangluo was shocked. This was the demonic power of a high-level, peak-strength monster. It was too strong. If it were not in space, she felt that she would be destroyed by this power in an instant. So can Qin Sui escape this disaster? She looked over and saw Qin Sui throwing another jade stone. She thought she was still attacking Xuanhuan, but she saw Qin Sui pulling Uge, the jade stone shattered in front of them, and the two of them disappeared. Yanxiangluo did not learn the Jiyin Xian pattern in vain during this period. She immediately understood that what Qin Sui had just used was the teleportation Xian pattern, but she didn't know how far it could be teleported. After the green spirit snake's attack failed, it did not stop and chased directly towards the road into the valley. Yanxiangluo understood it clearly. It seemed that Qin Sui's teleportation pattern was not far away, otherwise the green spirit snake would not have chased after them, and it must have been able to sense their aura. Seeing the figure of the green spirit snake disappearing at the entrance of the valley, her black eyes lit up. She wondered if Qin Sui got the forget worry grass. If not, she would have a chance. This is a good opportunity for her to get the forget-me-not. Maybe she will have a chance to miss it today. Yanxiangluo came out of the space without hesitation and ran towards the battlefield ahead. Soon she saw a forget word growing in a rock crevice, and she knew it was just ripe at first glance. In fact, their alchemists do not necessarily need mature forget word. It seems that Qin Sui thought that the forget word was about to mature, so she waited for a while, but the green spirit snake came back and did not have time to pick it. Yanxiangluo doesn't know if the forget word can survive if it is moved into Pangu space. After all, forget word likes places with light and moisture. Her Pangu space cannot do either of these things now. Even so, she still moved the forget word and the rocks into the space so that they could be dried into dried herbs. She has not forgotten that the forget word does not live alone. If there is this one, there must be other forget words nearby. Continuing to search, she found a few more small forget-me-nots. She didn't mind them and moved them to Pangu space. She, Xiangluo, didn't know whether it would be Qingling Snake or Qin Sui who would come back later. She didn't want to meet either one. Therefore, seeing that she could not find any other forget-worn grass, she hurriedly ran towards the entrance of the valley. She used her vitality and her speed was not slow. When she came to the passage at the entrance of the valley, she saw Yuji and Xianxia walking in embarrassment in front of them. It was obvious that they had won, but the price was not small. Yan Xianluo quickly stepped into the space and saw the excitement in Xianxia's eyes as she walked over. She thought she was going to get the forget you worry grass. Yan Xianluo shrugged. It was a pity that all the forget-me-nots were picked up by her. After the two walked past for a while, Yan Xianluo immediately came out of the space and sped up to leave the valley. When she exited the narrow entrance passage of the valley, she saw the body of the green spirit snake. This is to gather the forget-me-not grass in a hurry, even the body of the green spirit snake is not wanted. You must know that the green spirit snake is full of treasures. Yan Xianluo waved her hand, and the green spirit snake's body was taken into the space by her. Although it didn't have a tail, the snake gallbladder and skin she wanted were there. Take it away first and pack it up later. Choose a direction and leave quickly. At this time, in the valley, Xianxia looked at the place where the forget-wort grew with a livid face. Even the rocks had been dug away. Who did it? Why didn't they find anyone else in the valley? Having paid such a high price to actually make wedding clothes for others, you can imagine how Xianxia feels now. The anger attacked his heart, his body swayed, and he fainted. Miss Jin Yuji instinctively reached out to catch her, and her soft body fell into his arms, and he suddenly became distracted. End of this chapter.